Friends, welcome to Online Guru. Today's our topic of discussion is cardiovascular system part 2, that is heart. What is heart? Heart is a muscular pumping organ which is going to pump the blood throughout the body. Why it is important? Because blood is a medium through which the nutrients as well as the gases are going to get transported. These nutrients as well as oxygen is going to be taken up by the cells, that is the body cells, and these cells are going to utilize this glucose and oxygen for the formation of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. And this form of ATP is going to be utilized by the body cells as a source of energy to perform their normal physiological functions. See, heart is a pumping organ. The blood which is moving through the blood vessels need to be generated some pressure. Due to this pressure, there is some driving force should be there to move this blood throughout the body cells or the blood vessels. Why it is so? Because if there is no generation of pressure or if there is no driving force, what will happen? The blood will not move through the blood capillaries or blood vessels. So to generate a certain amount of pressure or a driving force, the blood should be pumped by a certain amount of pressure, and heart is going to conduct this operation. The primary function of the heart is to pump the blood throughout the body so that oxygen as well as the nutrients should be transported to the each and every part of the body cells, and also the collection of carbon dioxide as well as the metabolic waste from the body cells is going to be transported back to heart, where it is going for lungs for reoxygenation process. This is actually what is the process in which the heart is going to function. Then we are going to discuss the next point is that what is actual the size and structure of the heart. The heart is about 12 centimeter in length, 6 centimeter in breadth, and 9 centimeter in breadth and 6 centimeter in thickness. See, heart consists of cardiac muscles. As we see in the skeletal muscles, they are striated muscles. Similarly here also the heart will contain cardiac muscles. They are similar to striated muscles. How it is so? Because the cardiac muscles are also striated muscles like skeletal muscles. What is striated muscles? Striated muscles contain alternate light and dark bands present in their sarcomeres, while in the case of smooth muscles there are no presence of light and dark bands. So the cardiac muscle is similar to the skeletal muscles, but the major difference is that the striated muscles of skeletal muscles are voluntary in action, means they can be controlled by our will, but the cardiac cells are totally involuntary. They are not under the control of our will. That's why the cardiac muscle is going to operate on its own by some generation of action potential in them. That's it. Then the next point is that we are going to discuss the division of the heart structure. The heart is being divided into two main parts. First is pericardium. What is meaning of pericardium? Pericardium means the outermost layer which is going to cover the heart is called as pericardium. What is the meaning of peri? Peri means around the heart. That is called as pericardium. Pericardium is divided into three main components. First one is the fibrous pericardium. That is, it consists of a dense thick connective tissue. Connective tissue means it is going to connect the cells of the cardiac cells. Okay, so it is having a thick connective tissue. It will prevent distension of the heart. Then it is been followed by innermost layer is the parietal layer of the pericardium. Then again it is been followed by the visceral layer of pericardium. What is visceral layer? Visceral layer is the layer which is going to cover up entire heart. As you know, heart is a visceral organ. Therefore, this visceral layer is going to cover entire heart. That's why it is called as the visceral layer of the pericardium. Then the next point is that the heart is been divided into heart wall. That is, First one is the epicardium, which is the outermost layer, then myocardium, which is the middlemost layer, which is great in thickness. The myocardial part is very high in thickness, as it will contain the myocardium or the cardiac muscles, through which the heart is going to get contract and relax. And finally it is a endocardium, which is the most innermost layer. See the structure, you can see the actual structure. There is a pericardial cavity is there, pericardium is there, which is been followed by the epicardium, then myocardium, and finally a thin layer of endocardium. This myocardium is mostly important because it will contain most of the striated muscles, that is cardiac muscles. When we are going to speak about the pericardial cavity, when this pericardium is going to get inflamed, means any damage which is going to cause the disruption or damage to the pericardial cavity or pericardium, it will lead to the inflammation. As you know, we have discussed that inflammation is the response of the body towards any injury. If there is any cut in the certain area of the body, our body is going to give some response towards that injury to heal it. It may be swelling, it may be any redness, or it may be any other factors, but we are going to discuss the inflammation of specifically the pericardium. This is called as pericarditis. Inflammation of pericardium is called as pericarditis. See, heart chambers, as you know, human heart is four-chambered. Four-chambered heart is mostly seen in the humans. As we see, the Pisces, that is fish, are two-chambered, the amphibians or reptiles are three-chambered, and humans are four-chambered. Humans consist of two atria and two ventricles. What is the function of atrium? Atrium function is to fill the blood which is incoming from the pulmonary vein, that is lungs, and from the vena cavas. The left atrium is going to collect the oxygenated blood, while the right atrium is going to collect the deoxygenated blood. In fact, atriums are the blood reservoirs which are going to store the blood and fill it into the ventricles when the action potential is being generated. What is the function of ventricles? There are two ventricles like two atria, left atrium, right atrium, left ventricle, right ventricle. What is the function of ventricle? The function of the ventricle is to pump the blood. Actual functioning of the heart is been dependent upon the ventricles, because the ventricles are going to pump the blood from the heart towards the aorta and through the overall body. The ventricles are having large thickness as compared to aorta, and the left ventricle more specifically is having more thickness. Why it is so? Because left ventricle function is to pump the oxygenated blood throughout the body, as in contrast with the right ventricle, it has to just pump a certain amount of pressure, it should be generated to pump that blood towards the lungs via pulmonary artery. Then the next topic is we are going to discuss the heart valves. What is heart valves? These are the actually openings, okay, through which the heart is going to transport the blood. These are the openings which are been present between the particular atrium and ventricles. We are going to see now tricuspid valve. It will consist of three flaps through which it is been located between the right atrium and right ventricle. Then bicuspid valve, it is a two-flapped cavity or a valve which is primarily located between the left atrium and left ventricle. Then what is the function of these valves? These valves will prevent the blood from entering from ventricles towards the atrium. When the ventricles are going to contract, means the heart is going to get pumped. At this phase, the atrium, to prevent the blood from entering from ventricles to atrium, these valves are going to get closed. Means the actual function of this valve is to prevent the backflow of the blood. Okay. Then the next point is the semilunar valve. What is semilunar valve? They are of two types. Firstly, it is aortic semilunar valve, which is present between the left ventricle as well as aorta. Means it is going to prevent the flow of the blood from the left ventricle to the aorta. While the another is pulmonary valve, which will prevent which is present between the right ventricle as well as the pulmonary artery, which will prevent the flow of the blood from right ventricle towards the pulmonary artery. See the diagram. There is a 3 flaps which are present in the tricuspid valve, while in the bicuspid valve there are only 2 flaps. These are the openings. These are going to get open when there is a ventricular ejection, that is the pumping of the blood. These are the pulmonary valve as well as aortic valve. See the parts of the heart and the types of circulation. First one is aorta, which is the largest artery. It is going to pump the oxygenated blood which is coming from the left ventricles. Then the next point is the superior vena cava. Superior vena cava is going to collect the deoxygenated blood, that is the carbon dioxide rich blood, from the uppermost part of the body. That is the venous blood which is coming from the uppermost part of the body is going to be collected in the superior vena cava, and it is going to be transported back to right atrium. And inferior vena cava is also there, which is going to collect the deoxygenated blood from the veins from the lowermost part of the body, in contrast to superior vena cava. Then the next point is the pulmonary artery. What is the function? Pulmonary artery is going to transport the deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle towards the lungs for reoxygenation. The pulmonary vein is going to transport the blood that is oxygenated from the lungs towards the left atrium. Then the next point is the systemic circulation, pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary circulation is the circulation of the blood from the heart towards the lungs, again from lungs towards the heart. This is actually flow of the pulmonary circulation, while systemic circulation is the transport of the blood from the aorta, that is the left ventricle aorta. It will move towards the arteries, then arterioles, capillaries, then there will be gaseous exchange taking place, and again this deoxygenated blood will move through venules, veins, and again back to the vena cavas and directly to the heart. This is actually what is called as systemic circulation. See the internal structure of heart. The red area is the oxygenated area, means oxygenated blood has been present, and the blue area is the deoxygenated blood. See actually the physiology of blood circulation. There is, first of all, we will see that left ventricle is there. The left ventricle is going to pump the oxygenated blood through aorta towards the arteries, that is peripheral arteries. This peripheral arteries is going to transport this blood towards the organs or the cells. The arteries is going to branch off to form arterioles. These arterioles are again going to branch to form blood capillaries. Blood capillaries are very fine and thin blood vessels which are highly permeable to gaseous exchange. This blood capillaries is going to surround the body's tissue cells. The cells which are present in the body are going to be surrounded with this fine blood capillaries, where actual the gaseous exchange is going to take place. The oxygen is going inside the cell, and the cell which has been produced, the carbon dioxide is coming back to this blood capillaries. See the diagram. And this deoxygenated blood is again going back from venules to the veins, where it is going to superior vena cava, or it may be inferior vena cava, and again back to the right atrium. The right atrium will pump the blood from the atrium towards the ventricle by the contraction of atria, and it will come into the right ventricle, and from right ventricle it is going via pulmonary artery towards the lung for reoxygenation, means removal of carbon dioxide and intake of oxygen. See, in the pulmonary circulation, again there is a alveoli blood capillary junction. At this point or junction, there is transportation of gases, that is exchange of gases is going to take place between alveolus as well as the blood capillaries, and the carbon dioxide is being eliminated or removed, and oxygen is being taken inside the blood capillaries, and these fine blood capillaries from the lungs is going to form a pulmonary vein which is going to transport the blood towards the left atrium. This is how the actual circulation is going to take place in the heart. See the actual, we are going to describe the actual gaseous exchange which is been taking place at a alveoli blood capillary junction primarily located in the lungs. See, there is a alveoli. Alveoli is going to take the oxygen from the air. It is going to move the oxygen from the alveolus to the blood, that is blood capillaries. Why it is so? Because the partial pressure of the oxygen in the air is very high and the partial pressure of the oxygen in the blood is very low, because the deoxygenated blood is been moving through the blood capillaries. Therefore, the concentration of oxygen is very low in the blood capillaries. Due to this difference in concentration gradient, the oxygen from the alveolus will move inside the blood capillaries, while the carbon dioxide concentration in the blood is very high. Therefore, what will happen? The carbon dioxide will be removed from the blood capillaries towards the alveolus, and again this alveolus is going to eliminate or remove the carbon dioxide outside the body. This is how actually the gaseous exchange is taking place at a alveoli blood capillary junction. You can see the diagram in detail. See, we have discussed till now the blood is going to be transported by pumping of the heart. Heart is going to pump the blood and supply blood to each and every cells of the body. But what about heart? Heart should also get the oxygen, na? Heart should also get the nutrients to suffice this need. Okay, the heart has designed in such a way that it itself will also get the circulation. How it is so? By coronary artery. This coronary artery is going to supply oxygenated blood to the heart, and this coronary artery mainly divided into two types, that is left as well as right coronary arteries. And when the hearts, that is myocardial cells are going to take oxygen, they are going to remove carbon dioxide from them, which is going to be collected in the coronary veins. It is also divided into two types, left and right. You can see with respect to the details of the coronary arteries as well as coronary veins. See, this is the actual diagram. The red area mostly comprises of the coronary arteries because it will carry oxygenated blood, while the blue area is carrying the deoxygenated blood, that is coronary veins.